Yesterday was my younger sister Emily's wedding. My fiancé, Mark, who's a corporate attorney, and I were packing up to head back home to Chicago. As I checked out of our hotel in San Diego, I pulled up my banking app to pay the bill and froze. "Mark," I whispered, my voice shaking. "What's wrong, Lisa?" he asked, walking over. "My account, $9,200 is missing," I stammered. Mark's face tightened. "What do you mean gone?" He took the phone from my trembling hands and scanned the screen. "There was over $12,000 in here last weekend," I murmured, panic rising in my chest. Now it showed just $2,800. Mark flipped to the transaction history, his brow furrowed. "3 transfers," he muttered. $2, $500 to a credit card under your brother Ryan's name, $4,000 to an account under his wife Melissa, and $2,700 to your mother. All late last night while you were in the shower." "I didn't authorize these," I whispered, my stomach twisting. "Lisa, someone accessed your account," Mark said, his voice low and edged with fury. "We need to call the bank right now." As we stepped into the hotel lobby, my phone rang. It was Mom. "Lisa, thanks again for yesterday." "Emily was over the moon," she said, sounding completely casual. "Mom," I said, struggling to keep my voice calm, "there were several $1,000s transferred from my account yesterday. Do you know anything about that?" There was a brief pause, then a light laugh. "Oh, honey, it was actually less than I expected." "What do you mean?" I croaked. "Well," Mom said cheerfully, "Emily noticed you had more saved than we thought. So we decided to help split it up. Ryan said you didn't really need it. Just consider it part of Emily's wedding gift, okay?" My mind went blank. Mark stepped closer, sensing the shift in my expression. I hit speakerphone. "Mom, that's theft," I said, my voice trembling. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. We're family, Lisa. You're single. You make a good salary. Of course you should help out." Mark took the phone. "Hello, this is Mark, Lisa's fiancé. What you've done is illegal. Withdrawing money without consent is a crime." "Oh, the lawyer," my mother snapped, her voice suddenly cold. "Stay out of family business." I snatched the phone back. "Mom, how did you even access my account?" "Ryan did it," she said coolly. And then she hung up. Mark squeezed my hand. "We're going over there," I said firmly. Half an hour later, we were standing at my parents' door. Mark gently touched my shoulder. "Stay calm," he whispered. I nodded, took a deep breath, and knocked. Ryan's voice called out from inside. My father opened the door, smiling faintly. "Lisa, I thought you'd left already." I walked past him straight into the living room. Ryan lounged on the couch, Melissa by his side, and Mom sat nearby sipping coffee. They all fell silent as I entered. "How did you get into my account?" I asked, my voice shaking. Ryan shrugged, a grin tugging at his lips. "In the hotel room, while you were in the shower. Your password's always the same, easy guess." "Why?" My throat felt dry. Ryan leaned back, his tone dismissive. "Why?" "Because we needed it. You live alone in your downtown condo, you travel, you don't have kids. We've got school costs, house repairs. You'll bounce back in no time." Anger surged up in me. "Don't justify stealing." Mom raised a hand as if calming a child. "Lisa, you always overreact. We're family. It's natural to help each other." Mark stepped forward. "Lisa has supported you for years. Birthday gifts, paying off Dad's medical bills, helping with Ryan's mortgage. Enough is enough." Melissa scoffed. "That's her duty. She's better off than the rest of us." I clenched my fists, memories flashing, the endless small favors, the guilt trips, the expensive presents I felt cornered into buying. "I want the money back," I said firmly. Ryan chuckled. "It's gone. Wedding bills, some debt, a little shopping." "Shopping." My vision blurred with tears. "Lisa, don't blow this up," Mom murmured. "We're family." "No," I said, my voice finally steady. "We were family." Mark gently touched my back. "Let's go." As we reached the door, Ryan called out, "Don't be so cold, sis. You make that money back in no time." I turned, heart pounding. "Don't contact me again." Back in the car, I let the tears fall, my head against the steering wheel. Mark silently took my hand. "Lisa," he said softly, "this isn't just family drama. It's theft. And you have every right to stand up for yourself." I took a deep breath. He was right. And I was done being used. "Why?" Ryan said with a shrug, sprawled lazily across the couch. "Because we needed the money. You're living it up in that fancy Chicago apartment all by yourself while we're juggling kids and bills." His tone was so casual, as if explaining why they borrowed a cup of sugar, not why they drained thousands from my account. A surge of anger rose in me. "Don't you dare try to justify stealing." "Lisa, don't make this into such a big deal," my mother chimed in, her voice soft and coaxing, as though I was an overdramatic child. Across the room, my father barely looked up from his newspaper. "Keep your voice down, Lisa," he muttered, turning the page with an absent flick. Mark, who had been quietly standing at my side, finally stepped forward. "Lisa has supported all of you for years. She bought Mason that high-end laptop for his birthday, helped with Sophia's private school fees. Hasn't that been enough?" Emily, my sister, scoffed and folded her arms. "That's just her responsibility, isn't it? Lisa's single, no kids, good job. We've got real obligations, children to raise, a mortgage to cover, braces, lessons." Ryan chuckled, a smirk tugging at his lips. "And it was just a small fraction of your money, Lisa. You pull in more in a few months than some of us see all year." A wave of memories rushed through my mind like a cruel highlight reel. The endless gift lists Emily had texted for Mason's birthdays, each item over $300. The guilt trips when I hesitated. "You're not going to let your nephew go without, are you?" my mother would say. And time after time, I gave in, buying the expensive tablet, the gaming system, the pricey lessons. Back then, I told myself I was lucky to be able to help. But standing there now, I saw it for what it really was. I hadn't been blessed. I'd been used. "I want it back," I said, my voice shaking but steady. "Every cent." "Now." Ryan gave a short laugh. "That's impossible. It's already gone." Paid for Emily's wedding, caught us up on some bills, and yeah, a little shopping. "Shopping." My voice cracked. Emily smiled slyly. "The smartwatch Ryan wanted, the same one you love showing off." My stomach turned. That watch was a gift from Mark, a symbol of my promotion, of years of hard work. "Lisa, you're overreacting," my mother said, shaking her head with a patronizing sigh. "We're family. Families help each other, we lend and borrow." Mark's jaw tightened. "No, this is theft." For the first time, my father lowered his paper. "Young man, don't bring the law into a family matter." I stood frozen in place, the weight of betrayal settling on my shoulders. These were the people I had loved and supported without question. And to them, I was nothing but an ATM. "Lisa," Mark said softly, resting a hand on my back, "let's go. There's no point in staying." As we reached the door, Emily called after me. "Come on, don't be so angry. You'll make that money back in no time. And honestly, we needed it more than you." When I turned to look at her, she met my eyes without an ounce of guilt, as if I was the selfish one for wanting to protect what I had earned. "Goodbye," I said firmly. "Don't contact me again." The moment I got into the car, the dam broke. I gripped the steering wheel and sobbed, my body shaking as years of bottled-up hurt spilled out. Mark quietly rubbed my back, waiting without a word. "Lisa," he murmured after a while, "I wasn't exaggerating earlier. This is a crime. What they did, accessing your account without permission, that's illegal." "But their family," I whispered, my voice hoarse. "That doesn't give them the right to hurt you," Mark said gently but firmly. "If a stranger stole $9,200 from you, you'd call the police without thinking twice. Why should this be any different just because it's family? If anything, they should be the ones protecting and respecting you." His words echoed inside me. On the way home, we made a stop at Emily's apartment. She was supposed to be packing for her honeymoon, but answered the door, pale and drawn. "Lisa," she asked, startled. "What's wrong?" Looking into her eyes, I saw the truth she didn't know. "Emily," I whispered, "Ryan, Mom, and Dad stole $9,200 from me last night." Her face went white. "What?" "My account," I whispered. "Emily, Ryan, and Mom and Dad, they were all involved." Jason's face turned pale. "What?" I nodded, my throat tight. While I was in the shower at the hotel, Ryan apparently used my phone to transfer the money. Jason ran a hand through his hair, sinking onto the edge of the couch. "No way," he murmured, burying his face in his hands. I knew Ryan and Emily were stressed about money, but I never thought they'd actually do something like this. "Mom and Dad said not to worry about it. They called it a wedding gift for you," Mark added quietly from behind me. Jason lifted his head, his jaw clenched, anger flickering in his eyes. "Lisa, I swear I had no idea. I would never have asked them for something like that. Please believe me." I reached over and rested a hand on my brother's shoulder. "I know, Jason. I believe you. I'm not blaming you for this." Jason let out a shaky breath. "So, what are you going to do?" "I don't know yet," I admitted. "But I can't just let this go." Jason hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "What they did was wrong, no doubt. But Lisa, if possible, can you try not to do anything that completely tears the family apart?" I felt my chest tighten, a cold resolve hardening in me. "Jason, I'm not the one who broke this family." He gave a small, resigned nod. "Yeah, you're right." His voice trailed off. Mark gently touched my arm. "Lisa, we should head home." Jason walked us to the door, hesitating before wrapping me in a stiff hug. "I'm really sorry, Lisa. I wish I could fix this." I patted his back gently. "I didn't want to ruin your wedding." "My wedding isn't as important as you," Jason murmured, though his eyes betrayed his conflict, wanting to stand by me, yet struggling to hold on to his ties with the others. Back in our Chicago apartment, Mark and I sat quietly for a long time. The city lights twinkled outside the window, but I barely noticed. Mark moved around the kitchen, eventually handing me a steaming mug of coffee. "Feeling any calmer?" he asked softly. I nodded faintly, gripping the cup. "I just can't believe it, that this actually happened. I never saw it before, but they were using me all along." Mark sat beside me and gently took my hand. "Because you're kind, Lisa. Because you trusted your family." I swallowed hard. But this was different. "They went into my account. They stole from me." Mark was quiet for a moment. "Lisa, this is a crime. You have every right to take action." "You mean, call the police?" "Against my own family," I whispered. He looked at me, his eyes calm but firm. "Yes, they're the ones who crossed the line. Not you." The next morning, Mark left early, telling me he had some things to check on. I stayed home from work, staring out the window, trying to process everything. That afternoon, Mark returned carrying a large file. "Take a look at this," he said, setting it on the coffee table. He spread out papers, guides on financial crimes, steps to gather evidence, legal options. "I spoke with a colleague at my firm," Mark explained. "She specializes in financial crime. Turns out, financial exploitation by family is much more common than we think, especially when someone is single and earning a high income." I flipped through the documents slowly, the weight of it sinking in. "Is all of this really necessary?" I asked, my voice small. "They're my family." Mark's face was serious. "Lisa, what they did was a crime. If you let it go now, it's only going to happen again. And next time, it might be worse. So, what should I do?" "First, we gather everything, bank statements, transfer records, emails, texts, anything that shows a pattern," he said calmly. That night, I sat at the dining table surrounded by folders, papers, and my laptop. I sorted through 3 years of financial records, lining up everything in chronological order. As I flipped through the documents, my eyes widened. "There's so much," I murmured in disbelief. Mark came over, resting a hand on my shoulder. "In just the past year," I said quietly, "I've sent or loaned them over $17,000. And it just kept going. The list was endless: birthday gifts, school fees, emergency bills. "This isn't normal," I whispered, staring down at the stack of papers. "This is one-sided. This is exploitation." Family. They came in rapid fire: texts from Emily, voicemails from Ryan, missed calls from Mom. "Lisa, did you really report us to the police?" Emily's text read, "You're tearing the family apart. Mason's braces appointment is next week. How can you do this to us?" Ryan's message wasn't any softer. "Wow, Lisa. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? Unreal." And from Mom, a voicemail in a trembling voice. "Lisa, I can't sleep. Your father's heart has been acting up since we heard. Please withdraw the report. This family can't survive this shame." Reading their words, a knot twisted in my chest, but this time, I caught myself. I opened the file Mark and I had compiled over the weekend and stared down at the pattern that had haunted my life. The sweet requests, the guilt-tripping, the accusations when I hesitated. Mark had brought over his colleague Emma, a financial crimes lawyer, to speak with me that Saturday. "Lisa, this is a textbook case of financial abuse," Emma had said, her tone gentle but firm. "Family doesn't make this okay. If anything, it makes it worse. Let me ask you something. If a stranger had taken $9,200 from Mark's account, what would you tell him to do?" I'd laughed nervously. "Call the police, of course." "And what if it were his brother or parents?" she pressed. I'd fallen silent. "A crime is a crime, Lisa," Emma said softly. "Blood doesn't erase the harm. In fact, it deepens the betrayal." Her words had cracked something open in me. Mark had reached over, squeezing my hand. "Whatever you decide, I'm with you," he'd said. That was the moment my resolve had hardened. "Mark," I'd whispered, "let's do it. Let's report them." So here we were, sitting in a small conference room at the Chicago Financial Crimes Division. The officer, Detective Taylor, listened intently as I spoke in a shaking voice about the missing $9,200, about the night of Jason's wedding, and about the years of quiet exploitation before it. Mark sat beside me, calmly explaining the technical details. When Taylor asked for evidence, Mark slid a thick folder across the table: bank statements, unauthorized transfer logs, saved texts, even emails where my family had laid on the guilt. Taylor flipped through the documents, her brow furrowed. After a few minutes, she looked up. "Ms. Walker, this is clear evidence of financial crime. We're seeing unauthorized access, theft, and a long-term pattern of financial abuse." I felt my throat tighten. "What happens next?" "We'll open a preliminary investigation," she explained. "That includes interviews with everyone involved, gathering further documentation, and verifying legal thresholds. If we have sufficient evidence, we'll refer the case to the district attorney." I sucked in a shaky breath. "Will they be arrested?" "That depends on what we uncover," Taylor said evenly. "But freezing accounts or seizing assets is definitely on the table." The weight of what was happening finally hit me. My family, my own family, might face criminal charges. Taylor must have seen the turmoil on my face because her voice softened. "Are you having doubts, Ms. Walker?" I shook my head slowly. "No. It's just, they're my family." Taylor leaned forward slightly. "Lisa, the majority of cases we handle involve family or people close to the victim. You're not at fault here. Please, don't carry the guilt that belongs to them." Her words settled over me like a bomb. For the first time, I felt the flicker of something I hadn't felt in years: relief. I straightened my shoulders and met her eyes. "Please move forward with the investigation." "First one they stole from Dad," I said, my voice trembling but firm. "You should be asking why they did this, not why I reported it." "Lisa," he sighed, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "You're destroying your own family. Your mother hasn't been sleeping." Emily's in tears. "Ryan's been suspended from work. The house is at risk. Is this really what you wanted?" I closed my eyes, feeling a wave of emotion crash over me, sadness, anger, grief. "No, Dad. This isn't what I wanted. But this is what they caused." There was a long silence on the other end, and then, softly, "You're no longer our daughter." My heart squeezed in my chest, but my voice came out clear. "Goodbye, Dad." When the call ended, I sank to the floor, numb. I expected to cry, but no tears came, only a strange, hollow ache that slowly transformed into something else, relief. For the first time in years, I felt free. A few days later, Mark came home with more updates. "Lisa," he said, setting his briefcase on the table, "Amelia and Ryan are being officially charged with unauthorized access and theft. Your parents are under investigation for conspiracy." I looked up from my coffee, my voice barely a whisper. "Are they going to prison?" Mark sat down across from me, his face gentle. "That's up to the court. But since it's their first offense, the most likely outcome is a suspended sentence. They'll probably be ordered to repay the stolen money and cover damages." That night, I got another call, this time from Jason. "Lisa," he said quietly, "I heard everything. I wish you hadn't been forced to go through this." "Jason, I didn't have a choice," I said softly. "I know," he admitted. "But everyone's in chaos. Emily's terrified about the kids. Ryan's freaking out. Mom's blaming herself one minute and blaming you the next." I sighed. "That's not my responsibility anymore, Jason. They stole from me. They crossed a line." Jason hesitated. "Are you asking me to pick a side?" "No," I said, my voice tight. "But if you are on my side, tell them they were wrong. Tell them they owe me an apology." "I'll try," he murmured. "But I don't know if they'll listen." After Jason left, Mark slipped his arm around my shoulders as we sat quietly on the couch. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. "Yeah," I whispered. "It just hurts seeing Jason stuck in the middle." "He didn't do anything wrong." Mark kissed the side of my head. "He has to choose where he stands, Lisa. And deep down, you know who's in the right here." A few days later, Mark came home with the final update. "It's official," he said. "The charges are moving forward. The prosecutor's filing for restitution, damages, and a restraining order." I sat still, the weight of it all settling over me. "Lisa," Mark said softly, "this is the end of the line. You stood up for yourself. And no matter what happens, you're not alone anymore." That night, as I lay in bed, my phone lit up with one more message, this time from Emily. "Lisa," it read, "I can't believe you did this to us. The kids are terrified. Ryan's lost his job. Mom says she's sick with worry. Please, please stop this. You're our sister." I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. "That was your choice," I typed. "I'm done being used." And, for the first time in years, I turned off my phone and slept peacefully. "Lisa," my father said bitterly over the phone, "you're the victim here. You're destroying this family. Your mother hasn't slept in days. Emily is hysterical. Ryan's been suspended from work. The house is close to foreclosure. Is this really what you wanted?" I took a deep, shaky breath. "Dad, this is the consequence of all your actions, not mine. This isn't my fault." There was silence on the other end. Then came the words that still made my stomach knot. "You're no longer our daughter. You betrayed this family. You're not welcome back." The line went dead. I sank to the floor, numb. I thought the tears would come, but they didn't. Instead, a strange, unexpected sense of release filled my chest, like a weight had been lifted, like chains I hadn't even known I was carrying had snapped free. That weekend, Detective Taylor called with an update. "Lisa," she said gently, "Emily Parker and Ryan Parker have been formally charged. As for your parents, there's not enough evidence for criminal charges, but they may still face civil liability. The preliminary hearing is scheduled for next week." She paused for a moment. Lisa, have you experienced any threats or pressure from your family since filing the report? I thought of my father's last words, the cold disowning, the bitterness. They've cut me off, I said quietly. I'm sorry, Taylor said softly. I know that must be hard. But your safety is our top priority. If you feel unsafe, we can discuss a restraining order. That night, I told Mark everything, every word of that final call. Mark wrapped his arms around me as we sat on the couch. Lisa, you're doing the right thing, he murmured. There are consequences to their actions, and none of this is your fault. I leaned against him, whispering, but I've lost my family. He gently tipped my chin up so I could meet his eyes. Real family respects you, Lisa. They honor your boundaries. They don't betray your trust. That's what family means. A few days later, an unfamiliar envelope arrived at my office. Inside was a handwritten letter from someone named Morgan Davis. Dear Lisa, the letter began. You probably don't remember me, I'm Ryan's cousin. We met a few times at family gatherings. I heard what happened, and I just wanted to say, thank you. I blinked in surprise, reading on. I've been in a similar situation. My family constantly borrowed money and never paid it back. When I finally said no, they called me selfish. But hearing what you did, hearing that you stood up for yourself, gave me courage. You helped me realize I have the right to set boundaries, too. Thank you for your bravery. I pressed the letter to my chest, overwhelmed. For the first time since this all began, I felt a flicker of certainty that I had done the right thing. This wasn't revenge. This was self-protection, and it was giving others strength, too. That weekend, Mark smiled and said, I want to take you somewhere, just to clear our heads. He drove us to a quiet lakeside spot outside of Chicago. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the water in shades of orange and gold, I let out a breath I hadn't known I was holding. This place is beautiful, I murmured in awe. Mark took my hand, leading me down to a small dock where a table with candles waited. What's all this? I asked, my heart racing. I wanted to make tonight special, he said, his smile warm. We shared a quiet dinner under the stars, and as the night deepened, Mark stood, reached into his jacket, and pulled out a small blue velvet box. Lisa, he said, kneeling before me, his voice steady and full of love, these past few weeks, I've watched you stand up, fight back, and find your voice. You are so strong, and you inspire me every day. My breath caught as he opened the box, revealing a delicate diamond ring. You stood up for yourself, Mark said softly, his eyes never leaving mine. That's not easy, but you did it. He opened the box in his hands, revealing a simple but breathtaking diamond ring. Lisa Walker, he murmured with a quiet smile, will you marry me? Let's start a new life together, a new family. Tears welled up in my eyes and spilled down my cheeks, but for once, they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of release, of hope. Yes, I whispered, my voice trembling. Yes, Mark, I'll marry you. I may have lost my blood family, but I was being given the chance to create a new one this time, a family built on love, trust, and mutual respect. As the investigation period closed and the court date was set, I received an unexpected text just a few days before the hearing. It was from Jason. Lisa, he began hesitantly, do you have a moment to talk? Of course, I replied. When Jason arrived, he looked anxious but determined. I've been doing a lot of thinking, he said slowly, choosing his words with care. You were right. Completely right. What they did, it's inexcusable. And I'm going to testify for you. On your side. For a moment, I was too stunned to speak. Jason went on, his shoulders heavy. I knew Emily and Ryan were planning something. I even knew they were going to use the wedding as a cover. Really? I asked, my heart sinking. He nodded, eyes downcast. Yeah, but I couldn't stop them. I was scared it would tear the family apart. I reached out and placed a hand on his shoulder. Jason, this isn't your fault. He met my eyes, his own full of guilt. No, I'm complicit too. But I can't stay silent anymore. It's time to tell the truth. And if mom and dad disown me, so be it. Doing the right thing matters more. When the day of the preliminary hearing arrived, Emily and Ryan showed up with their lawyer, stiff and cold, their glares sharp as knives. As the judge reviewed the evidence and heard testimony, including Jason's, the atmosphere in the room shifted. Jason revealed that our parents had known about the plan and that Emily and Ryan had been quietly funneling money from me for years. The judge listened intently, then scheduled the official trial date. To my surprise and relief, he also issued a temporary restraining order against my entire family, ensuring they couldn't contact or approach me during the process. As we exited the courthouse, I caught Emily's gaze. For the first time, the anger on her face was mixed with something else, fear. The kind of fear that comes when you realize you've run out of excuses and the consequences are no longer avoidable. Mark slipped his arm around my shoulder. "You okay?" he murmured. I nodded, a quiet strength rising inside me. "Yeah, I'm okay now." That evening, we met Mark's parents for dinner at a cozy restaurant on the outskirts of Chicago. They already knew what had happened and welcomed me with warmth I hadn't known in years. "You're part of our family now," Mark's mother, Estella, said with a kind smile. "And in this family, we take care of one another with respect." Tears filled my eyes at her words, but this time they were happy tears. It was the first time I truly understood what family could and should mean. As we left the restaurant, I spotted Jason waiting outside. "Jason!" I exclaimed, wrapping him in a hug. "What are you doing here?" He gave a shy smile. "I heard from Mark." "Congratulations, Lisa." "Really?" I glanced at Mark, who grinned and squeezed my hand. "He's your family," Mark said softly. "Your true family." "Jason, what's next for you?" I asked, concern tugging at my chest. "I'll be okay," Jason said with quiet confidence. "Actually, I'm planning to look for a new job here in Chicago." "In Chicago?" I asked, surprised. "Yeah," he nodded. "I want to be close to you, to be part of your real family." His words filled my heart with warmth. I hadn't lost everything. I still had Jason. And slowly, I was building something better. A few weeks later, another message popped into my inbox, this time an email from Morgan Davis, Ryan's cousin. "Dear Lisa," the email began, "thanks to you, I've started reclaiming my own life. Your courage inspired me to say no to my family. I didn't take legal action like you did. But your story is reaching many people. You helped me realize that we don't have to silently endure exploitation just because it's done in the name of family." Reading Morgan's email, I sat back and took a deep breath. The knowledge that my actions were giving others strength filled me with warmth I hadn't felt in a long time. For so long, I had thought I was standing alone, but now I saw I had unintentionally opened the door for others to stand up, too. And then, the official trial began. Emily and Ryan stood before the court, their lawyer pleading for leniency, citing financial hardship and the fact they had young children at home. I watched, calm and steady, as the judge carefully weighed the evidence, the statements, and the long pattern of betrayal. Finally, the judge delivered the verdict. The defendants are hereby sentenced to 3 years of probation for the crimes of unauthorized access and theft, the judge read. They are ordered to repay the stolen amount of $9,200 and an additional $5,000 in damages for emotional distress. Furthermore, they must comply with a 5-year restraining order prohibiting any contact with the victim. As I walked out of the courthouse, the brisk Chicago air hit my face, and for the first time in months, I felt unexpectedly calm and clear-headed. This wasn't revenge. This was justice. This was me defending the right to be respected, the right to have boundaries. That night, the local news covered the case. Under the headline, "The Reality of Financial Crimes Within Families," my story was shared anonymously. To my surprise, it sparked conversation across social media and community groups about a topic so often buried under guilt and silence. Soon, messages began to fill my inbox. "Thank you for your courage. You've given me the strength to finally say no. I thought I was the only one. Mark leaned over my shoulder, smiling as he read them with me. Lisa, he murmured, wrapping his arms around me, you've become a symbol of hope to so many people. 60 days passed after the verdict, and then the court's enforcement kicked in. Emily and Ryan's bank accounts were frozen. Some of their assets were seized to cover the damages. Ryan's employer terminated his position, citing the financial crime conviction. According to Mark's colleague, their house was now teetering on the edge of foreclosure, with no way to cover the mortgage. The day after the restraining order was issued, more news trickled in. Ryan's official dismissal from his company was confirmed. And it wasn't just them. My parents were now facing civil action over their role and were struggling financially too. For a moment, guilt flickered through me. But almost immediately, I heard Mark's voice in my mind, calm and firm. This is the result of their own choices. This is not your fault. I exhaled slowly. At last, I felt like I had reclaimed myself, my identity, my dignity, my freedom. My life was moving in a new direction, away from the chains of a family that had mistaken love for entitlement. This time, I was building bonds that were real. This time, I was choosing a true family. I want to take a moment to speak directly to you, the people watching and listening to my story. If you've made it this far, you already know this wasn't easy for me. Standing up to the people I loved most, drawing a line where there had never been one before, and protecting myself when it felt like betrayal, it took everything I had. And yet, what I learned through this journey is something I want you to carry into your own life. Love without respect is not love at all. I invite you to support me, not just by cheering for my outcome, but by sharing your own thoughts and experiences. Have you ever been taken advantage of by someone you trusted? Have you faced the pain of setting boundaries with people you thought would always have your back? Please leave your comments below. I want to hear your stories. Let's create a space where we can encourage each other to stand strong, even when it feels like the hardest thing in the world. And here's the advice I want to leave with you. You have the right to protect yourself. Whether it's your family, your friends, or your workplace, no one is entitled to your time, your money, or your emotional energy simply because they share a last name with you or have been in your life for years. Setting boundaries is not cruelty, it's self-respect. It's okay to say no. It's okay to demand fairness. And most of all, it's okay to walk away from relationships that drain you instead of lift you up. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. Your support, your voice, and your courage matter more than you know. Let's build a true community of strength together.